What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel as we get ready for Nick Saban and his coach's press conference. It's Iron Bowl week, man. We want you guys to be part of the tailgate. We're going to hear from Coach Saban. We're going to talk about what Alabama and their head coach has to say. But first, welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe. Be part of it. This starts a run of some pretty fun football right here, and you need to be part of it. All right, with Chad Anderson, I'm Mick Gillispie. Welcome to the channel, guys, as we get set to hear from Coach Nick Saban. He'll talk about prep to get into this Iron Bowl week. I guess it officially starts today, although we started it on Saturday after the game, Chad.
Yeah.
But this is what it's all about, man. I mean, it's the Iron Bowl. Like this, if you come to Alabama, this is the game, one of them that you can't wait to play in.
As soon as the clock hit 0 on Saturday, Mick, all I started thinking about was Iron Bowl. Started thinking instantly about Auburn. And what's so weird and annoying about this game, I think everybody relished in the fact of Auburn paying New Mexico State $1.85 million to come down there and drop them 31-10. I think we all loved that, right? You're lying to yourself if you didn't. But now, of course, everybody's going, crap. You know, this just makes it worse for this week because now the expectation is you got to kill this team. And we all know whether Auburn's good or bad, it's just one of those rivalries, man. Like, even when Alabama had bad teams, you go back to Dubose and Shula and some of those squads. Even then, when Alabama was the heavy underdog, they would play Auburn tight. They would give them hell. It would be annoying. Like, Auburn would escape here and there. And so that's what Bama fans still have to be, prepared for, is a lot of times you start looking at who you've beaten or who you've lost to, and rivalry games, man, just throw it all out the window. This is a game don't take for granted, no matter what year it is, no matter what kind of season, except maybe that 2012 game. That was pretty awful with Gene Chizik. But yeah, it's just one of those games, man. It's rivalry week. And I told my wife this morning, I said, I'm going to be a miserable human all week.
Yeah, right. Worried about it.
I said, good Iron Bowl week. You got to get ready for it. It's just, it's an annoying week.
Look, I think that the best team, it wins, right? And is it going to be tough? Yeah. I remember 2015, our friend Ben was there head in hands during halftime. Alabama's losing. And then our buddy Jake Coker hits our Darius Stewart with a touchdown on a play where he told me on our Elephant in the Room podcast that Sabin was screaming about him rolling out of that play and kind of improvising. And then when he threw the touchdown, Sabin just said, one. But that play turned it around. And then they got a heavy dose of the elixir at that point on, which was known as Derrick Henry.
They did.
And won the football game, but it was tough. It's these sometimes can be tough games. This Auburn team has been Jekyll and Hyde. They played a really, really tough game against Georgia early in the season. Brock Bowers had a tremendous fourth quarter and beat them. They won some games. They've won 3 straight SEC games: Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas. But what does that really mean? I mean, those aren't, the Mississippi State fired their coach. Mississippi State and Vanderbilt are 2 schools that, I mean, when you really get down to brass tacks, they don't fit in the conference football-wise. They're normally pretty bad. Yeah. And then Arkansas was actually a surprise to me. I had no idea they were going to blow out Arkansas like that. So they're Jekyll and Hyde, and then they lose to New Mexico State. Looked to me like they were preparing for Alabama, which was a bad idea. You still got to play the game on your schedule. So they got a chance to bounce back after a super embarrassing loss.
Yeah, and that's what you always got to be careful of. And that's, I think, what a lot of people need to realize is Auburn probably got a case of the look-aheads, and yeah, they don't maybe, quote unquote, discredit New Mexico State or kick them off to the side. But let's be real. They were ready for and wanting to get ready for Alabama. And this is a team Hugh Freeze has beaten in the past. Now, he had better teams, better talent, and so forth. But yeah, you're right, Mick. I mean, there usually aren't upsets in this game per se. But I go back, another good example where Alabama was on the other side of the coin was 2004. Remember, Auburn comes into Tuscaloosa, Jason Campbell, Aroma Shadu, Obamanu, Cadillac, Ronnie, all those guys come in. Alabama's a 6-5 team at that point in the year, and Alabama led Auburn 6-0 at halftime. Auburn hit the upright on a field goal, and place was going nuts, and it was 6-0 at the half. Not that that's what's going to happen Saturday. I mean, different kind of football these days as well, but that's what I mean. Is it's that situation where it's just a rivalry game, a lot of emotion. Players play above their normal talent levels, especially in the first half early on. Steve Spurrier used to say that all the time. He would say, we get in a spot where the first quarter or so is just all emotion. Everybody's playing adrenaline and feeding off the crowds and momentums. Once you survive that first quarter, whether home, neutral, or on the road, once you survive that first quarter, talent, schemes, coaching, everything starts to set in. And you said it yesterday on our rollback show. You kind of think Auburn hangs around for a half, or has like a little bit of respect for a half, and then Bama pulls away late. That would not be a surprise whatsoever in this week's kind of game.
Yeah, there's just so many paths for Alabama to win this game.
Yeah.
And for Auburn, it's just not that same way. So, for Alabama, if they get a quick start on these guys, I don't think they're going to turn it off. I just don't. I think that this team's locked in. They could lose. They could lose to Georgia. They could lose to Auburn. They get to the college football playoff. They could lose. But I think that it's going to take another team playing a hell of a game, and that it's not going to be a situation like we saw against Texas where they weren't doing the things that they needed to do. I think that another team could play their best game and beat Alabama, and that's been really a hallmark of Nick Saban and his time at Alabama. You haven't had a lot of games like that Texas game where you look back and go, yeah, we gave this one away. Right. And that Texas played well, but Alabama they couldn't get set on defense. There was communication lapses. Milroe wasn't ready for the big stage at that point. He is now. This team has progressed. I think this is Nick Saban's best coaching job. People say that they think that this team reminds them of 2015. I don't. I think this is a very unique team to Nick Saban and his time at Alabama. He lost arguably the two best players that he's ever had on Alabama's roster, both in the same draft, right? You're talking about Bryce Young and Will Anderson Jr., one on offense, one on defense. So you've had to teach a quarterback. You've had to do it with a lot of new offensive linemen. The defense has gelled together. The pass rush has gotten better as the season's gone on. They're not perfect. They've had to play through injuries. I'm sure Nick Saban's going to be asked about Deontay Lawson. Is he going to be back? Jalen Key's going to be back? Yes or no? You'll get questions on that. Hey, we did see Devontae Smith, who was supposed to be one of Bama's best secondary guys in the game against UTC. So that's a good sign. And then I love when he talks about the Iron Bowl, because he's been through these now. He's been through these wars. And it's not like, as much as Nick Saban has dominated everything else, he's got a winning record in these games, but it hasn't been like the way that he's dominated another series.
No, he's won 11 of the last 15, though. The only one we're leaving out is the first one. He's won 11 of the last 15. And when you look back at those, Mick, I mean, to me, only 2 of those were really won by Auburn. The comeback, you just look at it and go, man, that was just a destination year for Auburn. The kick six, same thing. Just fluky kind of crap that happened. And that's the beauty of it. There's only that 2017 game, which is ironic because Alabama went on to win the national championship that year. That was the only game where you look at it and look at this Iron Bowl and like, man, Nick Saban and Alabama were really never going to win that game. Even the game where Tua was hurt and Mac Jones made his first career start. That was one where Alabama, it went back and forth the entire game. Really, the defense is what let Alabama down in that one. Mac and the offense scored 45 points. Bama's defense just gave up 48. But yeah, you look at Saban, Bama's definitely had the upper hand since he's been at Alabama. Crimson Tide has dominated much more often than Auburn has. And there's only, like I said, after that first year, there's only one game where Alabama really truly lost, and it never felt like they had a shot. And that was that 2017 matchup.
Guys, as we get ready for Coach Nick Saban, let me remind you that as the holidays approach, use the code Bama Tailgate at newlifeart.com. Chad, you may need to take advantage of this. You get 25% off with Bama Tailgate at checkout for anything at New Life Art right now.
And I'm staring at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, well, let's listen to Coach, and we'll talk about our Daniel Moores.
Well, final thoughts on the Chattanooga game basically is, we took our opponents seriously and came out and got the result that we wanted. We started fast in the game, executed well. Still lots of things to learn and improve on. Obviously, the Iron Bowl is, one of the great rivalry games in college football. Something that you look forward to as a competitor. It's also something that is a great opportunity to be able to play in. Um, and I don't think that anybody needs to pay attention to, what happened in the past, what happened in the last game, what somebody's record is. Anytime you play in a rivalry game, it's going to be a highly competitive, tough, very physical game, and that's what everybody needs to get ready for. I think Auburn has Hugh Freeze has done a fantastic job there. With his team this year, they've played very competitively in all their games. They're 6-5. They've won some games really well, but they do a great job of running the football. I think that they've got a very difficult offense to prepare for with the multiples that they give you, the different ways that they run the ball, the way the both quarterbacks really can add to the running game. Um, Tight end. Um, Number 13 is a really good player, really good receiver. Number 5 is a really good receiver. Um, Defensively, they played really well all year long. Um, they got some good players, got some edge rushers, they got some people that can create some problems for you, as well as they're very good on special teams. They're very aggressive in terms of what they do on special teams. They've got really good specialists. The kicker and the punter both are, leaders in the SEC. So this is a challenging game for us, and I think our guys need to have the right mindset of what it's going to take to be successful in a game like this, especially playing on the road.
Yeah, how would you assess the way your offensive line has played in recent weeks?
We're playing better. I think we made steady improvement. I think the improvement has come from better communication and, you know, better, technical execution from a technique standpoint, hand placement, foot placement, that kind of stuff. Second step on the ground. I think all those things have helped. I think pass protection has improved, but that's something that we need to continue to improve on.
How well do you think Jalen Milrow has protected himself as a runner this season?
As a what? Well, I think, Jalen is obviously someone that has great capabilities as a runner. I think he's been pretty effective in his choices of when to step up in the pocket, when to run, when he has an opportunity to make a play, when he doesn't. Um, but I think the thing he's developed is the ability to keep his eyes downfield and make plays in the passing game, even when the pocket breaks down. And I think he's been an effective runner for us. When we've had perimeter plays that involve reads on his part to get to the perimeter. So, and I think both those things help us overall offensively in terms of what the defense has to defend.
Hey, coach. Just what kind of progress have you seen from Terry Arnold over the course of the season?
Terry on has really done a good job for us. Because of injuries, he's had to play multiple positions, which has been challenging for him. He's had to play some star at times, which, in some cases, when guys went out of the game, he didn't have a lot of reps at it. But he's been a trooper at, doing it and, trying to look at it as a challenge and go out and improve each week. His coverage ability has been very good, and I I think he's played extremely well.
Good afternoon, Coach. I know during fall camp, building up depth along the defensive line was a priority. After 11 weeks, how has that group grown and evolved?
Yeah, I think we've had some young guys that have really, come along and shown some improvement. Some of them played, toward the end of, last game. So I feel good about the progress that we made in that group. And, I just think that, our ability to stop the run is going to be critical in this game. And for us to play physical on the line of scrimmage and play really good technique with whoever's playing is going to be the most important thing that we need to do in preparation for this game.
Coach, when Hugh Freeze got introduced as the Auburn head coach, one of the first thing he mentioned was the relationship with you. He said when he left Ole Miss, you and Miss Terry were really there for him during even time when he wasn't coaching. What is that relationship like for the fans? I know this is a big rivalry, but you guys have a special relationship, the two of you.
Look, I play against all kind of guys and all kind of coaches that coach for me that I'm good friends with. Whether it was Belichick when we were together, and then all of a sudden I'm at Miami and he's at New England. All the guys in college coaching that you have to play against. I've always been a guy that has a lot of respect for coaches and what we do to try to promote our game and how we try to impact young people as players. So I don't think you have to really, I think you can have a relationship with somebody and still compete like crazy when you play against each other, but it's really not personal. The outcome of the game is really not personal. You're doing the best you can to get your team to play the best, and I respect that as a coach. And we're going to do the best we can to get our team to play their best as a coach, and hopefully, people respect that. So, but at the end of the day, does it have to affect your relationship? I don't think so. I don't think you have to dislike somebody or have an adversarial relationship with somebody to actually compete against them.
Yeah, regardless of record, it seems like it's always a really competitive game when you guys go to Jordan-Hare Stadium. What do you think makes that place such a difficult place to win?
Well, I think it's, you know, if we're going to have success there, we're going to have to execute. I mean, anytime you play on the road in this league, it's a difficult place to play. This is no different. Um, but, people talk about all the crazy stuff that happens in this game. But since I've been here, the team that should have won the game based on who played the best. So I think the focus needs to be on, how we're going to play and how we're going to execute and do what we do and what kind of consistency are we going to be able to maintain in a difficult environment, which, we've had this challenge several times before. And this one's going to be just as difficult as any of the rest.
I've heard your good friend Bill Belichick say that the concept of halftime adjustments is really overrated because I guess adjustments get made during the first half because there's no sense in waiting. You can get hurt by that. So, with that in mind, how effective is this coaching staff at staying on top of adjustments during the first half so that when you get into the half, the time is more about message, motivation, or whatever else?
No, I think it's a combination of both. I love Bill, don't get me wrong, but I don't always agree with him. I didn't always agree with him when I worked with him before. But anyway, and I'm sure he'll say he didn't always agree with me. But anyway, we're making adjustments between every series. I mean, we're going over the previous series, whether it's offense, defense, or whatever. They ran this stunt, we didn't block it right, or they ran this formation, we didn't adjust to it correctly. Um, but we also draw those things up as the game progresses so we can actually show the players those plays and some of the things that they did as maybe you've already covered it, maybe you didn't have a chance to cover it, but we kind of do both. And then if there's something different that we want to do, sometimes you don't like to do it until you can get everybody in front of you and you can explain it a little better than you can on the sidelines. So there are occasions where you want to make adjustments to things when everybody can see it because it doesn't just affect one group. Sometimes, okay, we're going to change how we play this. That may affect the outside backers and the inside backers as well. So I think both things are really, really important, and I think both things actually occur during a game.
Tommy Reese was named a semifinalist today for the Broyles Awards. What can you say about what he's done to grow in his role this year?
Well, obviously we nominated him, so we thought he's done a pretty good job, and I think he's done a great job of transforming our offense and the players and how they've improved. And I think that's made a huge difference in the confidence on our team offensively, as well of as our team in general. So I think he's done an outstanding job.
Can a team taking a loss like Auburn did on Saturday sort of galvanize them, make them more dangerous this week?
I can't answer that. You know, I just can't answer that. I think you'd be better served to ask them, you know, that question. But you know, I think everybody pays attention when things don't go well, and they want to get it right. And I have enough respect, and we have enough respect that they'll probably do the same.
Coach, if you, I know you how you prepare, you do the same thing every week and respect all of your opponents. But I wonder if any time in your career you've ever taken some time from preparation for one game in anticipation of another, and if so, how that came out.
No, I never. In college football, I've never done that. In pro football, you know, sometimes you do a little bit of work on the next team only because it's really, really difficult. That's not something that works well for me because you know I'm sort of geared in on what you have to do in that particular game, and I don't like to commingle different things before that game is over. But I will admit in pro ball, not because of a particular opponent, it was just the best use of your time. To be able to, you know, you didn't practice very long on Friday with the players, walk through on Saturday, so you had quite a bit more time before you ever played a game. And you weren't with the players all the time. You know, we're with the players here a significant amount of time. Um, you know, like Thursday we practice, Friday we have walkthrough, Friday we have meetings, we eat with them, we have meetings Friday night. So you don't have all those things, you know, in pro ball. So, you know, sometimes there's a little time to try to get ahead, but it was not something that ever worked very well for me. All right, thank you.
All right, there you heard it. Coach Nick Saban talking about the Iron Bowl and a lot of different questions that were asked his way. Chad, the first thing that stands out to me in his press conference today is just how serious he takes Auburn. And you can tell that the whole theme this week is we respect these guys and we better be ready to play.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we talk about with the rivalry game. It's funny, Sabin actually mentioned what we talked about briefly, and that was that, hey, the team that's usually favored or the team that's supposed to win the game or the team that plays the best ends up winning the game.
Yeah.
He brought up some of the voodoo stuff and, you know, oh, this happened or that happened or crazy things happen. And he's right. You know, the team that is supposed to win a lot of times or more times than not does end up winning this game. Just sometimes they maybe do it in a little bit of an unorthodox manner here and there. But yeah, there's something about him though, Mick, when you watch him. And I really thought the way that the first question or two started there, I thought he was about to give somebody the old lecture. Like he seemed a little grouchy at first. Now, a couple of things loosened him up, lightened him up. You know, he kind of laughed a little about the relationship with other coaches, and then the whole thing with Bill Belichick. And, you know, he got off of the get off my lawn speech, but you can tell like this game, he won't ever say it, but this game, just from his demeanor and his reactions and the way he talks and handles and things like that, this one to me just feels like deep down he knows. Like he has a little bit of grumpiness in him when it comes Iron Bowl week.
Right. Well, also the fact that they got destroyed by New Mexico State He probably knows they were spending that time where they should have been preparing for their game against New Mexico State, and been putting that towards Alabama. So, that's part of this too. And he's got to convince his team that they need to go out there and take Auburn very seriously. This is a road game in the SEC. This is a place where you mentioned bad things happen. And being on the podcast with Jay Coker has given me a lot of perspective of how Nick Saban does that mentally with the team. When you're playing Georgia or Auburn on a good year, or you're playing in a playoff game or something like that, that you don't really have to remind them. This is the Iron Bowl, everybody, but I bet you he's still going to push really hard like he had to do against UTC. Hey, stop. That's not good enough. Let's do it over again. Even when you did everything right. Like, he's going to have to pay extra attention this week to make sure that this team is mentally ready to go into this environment and forget about Auburn's record. And I thought that's why initially he said, hey, it doesn't matter what their record is in these rivalry games.
Yeah, and it doesn't. We've talked about that. These rivalry games, teams tend to hang around. They just kind of linger. And the longer that goes on, the more the crowd gets into it. And if you're on the road, it's even worse. And if you're at home, a lot of times it's anxiety instead of noise. And so you just kind of feel that when you're on the field, when you're in the stadium, all those things. And you're right. Like, if Auburn was a top 10 team like this Iron Bowl has been in the past, you wouldn't have to say anything. Everybody would just be ready. Everybody would be focused. But the problem is, and we're guilty of it as well, but everybody's worried about what's happening with Texas, what's happening with Washington, we got Georgia next week, what's happening with Oregon tomorrow night or Friday night. That's the problem, or the thing. And us as fans, we can obviously do it. We don't have an impact on the game. But the players, that's what he's trying to control, is quit worrying about the end of the race. we still got 2 hurdles to clear before we even talk about the college football playoff.
I'm going to go to some of the comments here. Jersey Dolphins, one of the greats in channel history, and a guy that's come over from a couple different channels to join us here. He said, I feel like we're going to roll Auburn. Am I being arrogant for thinking this? I think this is what Nick Saban is. That's what his job is to make sure that the team's not overlooking Auburn, because he knows that if Alabama executes the way that they're supposed to execute, like they've been doing, that it could be one of those games where they get, a big lead and clear the stadium out. It would not surprise me. But what Auburn are we getting? Are we getting the one that just lost to New Mexico State, or the one that played Georgia? Here's another one. Robert wants to know, Bama wins the next 2. We're in the playoffs. Chad he thinks definitely yes. I don't know. I think that it is.
Well, I've said definitely.
I still think it's like this. To me, it's 50-50.
I've said definitely yes, as long as you don't have 3 undefeated conference champions and then conference champion 1-loss Texas.
Right.
That's the scenario where I won't guarantee it. If there's a debate between Bama and Oregon, Bama's in my opinion.
Right. Especially if they beat undefeated Georgia.
Right. That's my whole point, is the last victory that will come more recently than Oregon's win over Washington, assuming that's the path, and Bama's victory over Georgia. Because remember, Oregon and Washington play on Friday night for the Pac-12 title, assuming that's what happens. Bama, Georgia play on Saturday, late afternoon into the evening. So it'll be one of the very last things the committee sees before the rankings are released and the playoff is put together. And one other from Robert there, the targeting call on Braswell, he only had to miss the second half of Saturday's game. He's completely fine. He'll start on Saturday in the Iron Bowl. So no issues there with Chris Braswell.
Going to be a lot of fun preparing for this. Guys, make sure that you check out the other content that we're putting on the channel. We're going to constantly do that. And also, this is right here. This is your Iron Bowl promo code for newlifeart.com. And Chad, you were mentioning this before, and I've got a whole studio of these Daniel Moore prints. I've even got the Kenyon Drake Daniel Moore statue. But use the promo code Bama Tailgate, newlifeart.com, 25% off any order. That's a hell of a deal right there. 25% off with the promo code Bama Tailgate. So this week they're running a special on the Iron Bowl gold prints, which are really cool. They're not they're not huge like some of these other ones over here that you see, but they're kind of middle sized, right? But they're cool because they're like, I don't know. I've got a few of them. Ozzie Newsome making a catch to win an Iron Bowl. They've got Bart Starr. They've got Snake Stabler, and one of the games he was in, Joe Namath. And some of the great games ever, and even for Auburn fans, they've even got Auburn, prints as well from some of the games that they've won. But just when they sent me that, I was like, okay, put it out there.
Run in the mud is one of my all-time favorites. Stabler against Auburn. And another one of my favorites is, you can't get this. I actually got lucky. I met Stedman Shealy about 15 years ago in Tuscaloosa when his daughter was on the gymnastics team. And there's one that I think it's called All on the Line, another great one. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's one of my favorites too, talking about old school Iron Bowls. Those are classics.
They're all important. I mean, I can sit here and pretty much remember so many different Iron Bowls. First game I ever went to, Alabama game, was an Iron Bowl, 96.
Wow. That was a good one.
And that was it was Freddie Kitchens driving down the field at the end of the game with Dennis Riddle scoring. Gene Stallings announced that he was leaving at the end of the game, which was the beginning of a long road of shittiness for Alabama, thanks to Bob Bachroth and the powers that be in Tuscaloosa that thought that they were just going to throw Mike DuBose in that job.
That set us back about 8 years or 10 years. That was brutal.
Decade of damn bad, and part of it was the NCAA. Bama had some people in their athletic department. This is a show for another day, but that had their own agenda and got Alabama in trouble. Their own athletic people, with the NCAA, and some of them still work there, which is phenomenal.
The Stallings resignation too, going back to that real quick. A lot of that had to do with the Mississippi State loss the week before.
Yeah.
In Starkville. I
remember that one. 17-16.
Yeah, that was a weird game, one that Bama definitely should not have lost. Bama loses that one. They still won the West that year, which is kind of remarkable. They still won the West, and they lost to the eventual national champion Florida Gators in Atlanta. But that was nuts to see Stallings move on after that season.
Had a bowl showdown with Michigan, and
that was fun. I went to that.
Did you?
The Outback
Rudd
Bowl
had the interception, right? Wasn't it an interception for a touchdown? Yeah. The Outback Bowl. Yeah. So that was my first one, but went to the ones in Birmingham a bunch of times. Well, I guess not too many bunches, but the one in 98, the teacher made us write down, or professor made us write down what our Iron Bowl score was, and I nailed it.
Did you? 31-17?
31-17, yeah. And I put it out there. I was so confident that I was going to get it right, and I did, which is crazy. I think it's the only time in my life I've ever gotten the score right on the nose. You remember it was 17-0. Do you remember that?
That's what I was going to say. What's crazy is it was 17-0. I want to say there was like a trick play in that game with like Arvin Richard or something with Zhao and Arvin Richard. But yeah, that was crazy because Bama they got down 17-0. Bill Oliver was the Auburn coach of that game. Terry Bowden wasn't around.
Yeah.
Bill Oliver was the coach, and Auburn jumped out to the lead, and then Bama and Sean Alexander and the rest of them, Curtis, I think, was still on that team, scored 31 unanswered to win that game.
I went to the first win in 99.
I was there.
And Jordan-Hare, don't call it Jordan-Hare, 28-17, Sean Alexander. Moorhead had the safety.
Yep.
So that was fun.
Sean Alexander went off that night too, especially in the fourth quarter. I was in the end zone where Sean follows Chris Samuels into the end zone and does the wave there to the Bama corner as he scored the touchdown. That was quite a night. That was my first ever Iron Bowl.
Was it?
And that was a good one. Yeah, 99 on the Plains, 28-17. That was a great one.
I think I went to all of the losses in a row. And then I missed the 36-0 game because I was working for Crimson Tide Sports Network filling in. And so, or maybe I was on a women's basketball trip, but that sucked because I wanted to be there for that. You got my ticket. I think you got my ticket, right? For the 09 game. Was that not you?
Oh, 09. Yeah. Sorry.
I gave you my ticket. You got to go. And
09, yeah.
With old Steve, you guys got to go watch that one.
We hit up Sky Bar and then hit up the corner of the end zone.
Man, I can't believe that. That sucks for me. It was good for you guys. Again, working for Crimson Tide Sports Network. That's not fun.
It's not fun when you're over here calling this game and the most important game is taking place somewhere else.
I know
that part of the business sucks.
But the one that I remember like the most was the 29-13 2000. I guess it was 2015. Yeah, the one where Jake Coker was quarterback and Alabama was down at the half and then blew him out in the second half. And Derrick Henry just like they kept giving him the ball and he was just like trucking over dudes and breaking loose and they didn't want to tackle him towards the end of the game. That was beautiful.
What was funny was Henry had like the streak of consecutive games with a touchdown scored going, and he had not scored until that fourth quarter. And what was so great was listening to Stan White whine and bitch about Alabama running up the score. And Derrick Henry, I think it was a toss sweep. He hit the crease, man, and was gone and scored, and that kind of put the punctuation on it, and Bama won. I think it was 29-13 in that one. Henry got his touchdown streak extended there late in the game.
Yep. So that's a lot of fun, man. We'll be previewing this all week. We're going to do a video today about Jalen Milroe. We're going to just talk about the process of turning Jalen Milroe into one of the best players in the country, which is crazy. People comparing him to Percy Harvin and Reggie Bush type guy.
Unbelievable. That's quite the journey from a little over 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago to today.
Yeah.
What a job. Credit to him.
Yeah. We'll be live tomorrow night when the ESPN puts out the latest college football rankings. So do you know when that is? What time that is?
I want to say it's back to 6 o'clock.
Okay. Back to 6.
We'll double check it. I'm pretty sure it's 6 o'clock Central. Don't expect any change for Bama, but
no.
6 o'clock.
But you never know. You never know. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure that you share the channel. Don't forget the promo code Bama Tailgate gets you 25% off New Life Art. So you get your Daniel Moore print, you get your whatever. It says any order. So go in there and buy something good. Maybe you get calendars for the holiday. But I say when you get a deal like this, you got to buy some good stuff. You know, the big stuff. Now's the big stuff time. With a deal like that, 25% off any order. He's Chad Anderson. I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. And we'll talk to you later today. Roll Tide.